Please call the roll.
Councilman Delarada.
Present.
Councilman McGraw, absent. Councilman McPartlin.
Here.
Councilwoman Weber. Here. Supervisor Syed.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Councilman McPartlin. Okay, we're going to move on to approval of the minutes. First, we have the minutes from the regular town board meeting of July 24th, 2018. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I get a second? I will second. Are there any comments or changes to these minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The minutes from the town board meeting of July 24th, 2018 are approved. We'll now move on to the minutes of the regular town board meeting of August 28th, 2018. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. I will second. Are there any comments or changes to those minutes? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And those minutes are approved. We are now going to move on to privilege of the floor. Privilege of the floor is now open. If anyone would like to speak, you can approach the dais, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Michael Casella, 3477 Rosendale Road. Unfortunately, Ms. McGraw is not here. I was going to thank her personally for her comment in the article, which is in the Gazette the other day, acknowledging there's a speeding problem throughout the town, and she did mention Rosendale Road, which is the purpose for my visit. Been here 6 or 7 times on this situation. It's a small area of town, but anyway, and there's another article in the paper, an editorial saying that Michigan needs traffic calming. Well, okay. Last year, well, I was here about a year ago, and since then, Chief McManus last summer put up the trailers with signs, message signs. He put those up, and they were up for about a week or two, indicating the speed limit and the weight restrictions on my section of Rosendale Road. And I do think they helped. But unfortunately, since then, really nothing else has happened. The situation has not gotten any better. So it is a town-wide problem. So we could sit here and complain about it, or we could do something about it. Now, one of the things is that they're county roads. I did talk to Frank Gavin earlier today, who was the highway superintendent who's retired from that job. But he said the town can put signs up on county roads. They can also enforce the laws on county roads. But why can't we use the sheriff? Why can't we employ the state police to help us? It's just an idea. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it's an idea. Down from Flower Hill, they put a crosswalk in last year. From Flower Hill down to Niska Isle, to the bike path. They put crosswalks and flashing lights, and it looks nice. But there's probably about 4 people a week that use that. Where, in fact, according to another newspaper article, which I have here, that the Lions Park is the busiest part of the bike path in this area. And there's nothing even indicating there's a town park ahead. Be careful of pedestrians. There's nothing. And it's going to be an accident there, I'm sure, at some point. I've seen many, many close calls, and I don't know if the studies or Chief McManus can verify it, but I'm sure there's been plenty of accidents there. Fortunately, nothing tragic that I'm aware of. I think one idea is more signs indicating what the speed limit is. Maybe more signs indicating what the traffic weight limits are. And Colony has a separate traffic division. Now, I know Colony Police Department's much bigger than Niskayuna Police Department, but they have a line item on their budget which calls for X dollars from revenue generated from vehicle and traffic infractions. Another idea is maybe we could have an officer or a division just for that, which would substantiate itself and actually put money in the bank. And it would accomplish two things. It would beef up the police department and it would calm the traffic down, perhaps. Just an idea. Maybe we could put those signs up that have the radar lights. They have a radar gun and they flash your speed. Those are informative. That's educational. Now, I know that they've got red light cameras and they send you a ticket if you pass a red light in different areas. Well, I don't know if we could do that with speeding or not, but it's an idea, just another idea. So anyway, if I give you 10 ideas and we can use one of them, I've done something. Now, if the town wants to have a committee or anything regarding speeding or anything, I'll be the first to volunteer to be on that committee. I don't know, I'm resourceful. I've been here for 58 years. I know the town. I know a lot of people. Call on me. I volunteer to do that if I can be of some help. Regarding the speeding, it's a safety issue. It's a quality of life issue. And the people in my neighborhood, I mean, it's dragging the values of our houses down. So we want action. We don't want lip service. We want action. Anyway, the other item that I spoke about last year, and Mr. McGraw was very understanding, behind the train station at Lions Park, there's a boat launch. Okay. It's the most beautiful part of the whole town. I don't think anybody can doubt that whole area. And I look, unfortunately, my backyard, it's my backyard. There's no reason that people need to park down there. If they want to launch their boat or their kayak or whatever, great. They're healthy, they're athletic, they're outside exercising, hunting, whatever. There's no reason they can't put their vehicles back in the parking lot. Nobody wants to walk by there or look out their back window and see vehicles parked on the hill or whatnot. So that's all I have to say. I thank you for your time listening to me. If I can be of service to you in this matter or any matter, you know where I am. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
Well, nobody else. Doreen Zabin, 2455 Brookshire Drive. Good evening. We have certainly lots of pages here. I'm glad to see that you're using both sides of the paper. Especially since now we can't even take it to the landfill or soon. I'm here to talk about the resolution that you wonderful council has decided that the historian's job needs a little perking up. Now, most of you, I have to feel, except for our attorney, Paul Briggs, was here when we had, the first one I remember was Linda Van Dyke. That was back in '87. She may have been here before that, but I wasn't. Then we had Linda for a long time until I think the former supervisor was here, and he appointed someone. I don't know whether it was Mr. Kaiser before Kathy Schoolcraft or after, but I never remembered the board being so interested in the history, and especially since Ed Riley, who has now passed on, several of the other supervisors, Kathleen D. Catalto. I don't remember who Kathleen may have appointed since it is a supervisor's appointment. None of them, to my knowledge, ever came to a meeting of the historian or made any inquiries. And interestingly, it's the only salary that's ever been steady. No one has ever raised that $500 salary for the historian or the $500 for the supplies. Now, I have to assume in 30 some odd years that none of you are earning the same salaries that you earned 35 years ago, which is not part of the conversation. I think when I talk about Mr. Kaiser, I don't remember ever having come to a meeting where he did any kind of report on what he was doing for his $500 a year. I did attend 2 meetings of Miss Schoolcraft, who, by the way, comes from a very historic family that owned maybe half of Niska Isle, and or maybe a third, but there were 3 owners on Niska Isle. And do you know that people don't even know anything about Niska Isle? Well, that's because nobody ever went to the historians' information sessions. The reason I bring it up is why all of a sudden, when none of you, except maybe the supervisor, even went to the interviews. So the historian wasn't picked out of the air. He applied. He has wonderful credentials, as you have read. And now you're bringing up a whole new agenda when we must have 99 other more important things to do presently. None of you from the 4 major board members probably lived in the town 30-some years ago, or even prior to that. And I will clarify that I've been here 40-some odd years. So the town of Niskayuna was not only important of my choosing to live here, it has been important because of the historical value that we have. The former supervisor, going back to Linda Van Dyke, she was very interested in the development. She was very interested in saving and protecting the glory of the town of Niskayuna that was established in 1806. And people liked that. They liked the fact that this had a lot of history to it. We had Indians, we had the Grange, we had one-room schoolhouses. And I'm curious if any of you people ever took an interest in the history of Niskayuna. All of a sudden now, we need a committee, we need volunteers, we need this wonderful majority board who has spent more money in bonding than I think all of the supervisors that we've ever had since 1806. And every time I pick up a paper and I see some opposition to a new supervisor that won by 1,000 votes. Now, I'm not saying politically this is difficult, but it is difficult. She got more votes than any of the 2 people that ran on the ticket and won. She beat out the other 2 candidates. Now, the point I'm making is that once you're elected to the town of Niskayuna board, you represent all of us. You don't just represent one party. You don't represent the fact that we have 3 or 4 parties in Niskayuna. Some may have voted for you. Some, and a lot of them, voted for the supervisor. Now, the supervisor we had for 10 years prior to our present supervisor, I don't know what his motives were. He didn't care anything about the historian, I'll tell you that right now. And all of a sudden, into another year, another political year, when some of you are in your second terms, the historian has become a major feature of this town. We have rising, fees. We have fees that we're paying that used to be paid by our taxes, such as the brush pickup. And it was very nice that you chose not to raise that another $5 this year. We have bonding that maybe exceeds $48 million of debt. That's the town of Niskayuna. So whenever you're no longer here, somebody else is going to have to be responsible. I just feel that you're not representing all of us. You're representing, you want to stay on the board, so you're coming up with all of these grand ideas to get you publicity, and you get plenty of it. You get pictures. I mean, I don't know what the Gazette would do without you. I don't see half of this in Rotterdam or any of the other towns. But Niskayuna certainly gets his fair share, and more so. I'm simply saying that it doesn't go without notice that you do not represent all of us by criticizing each other. That is absolutely beyond the ethics and the community of this town. I didn't sit on the board, I was an appointee. We never criticized. We didn't make an effort to call people's names. And isn't it boring to have to listen to a resident of longstanding chide this infantile board who can't think of anything better to do with this town? I'm very disappointed. I did make a list of some of the things. I've mentioned most of the Krazer, Kathy. By the way, Kathy's schoolhouse left the town. They sold their interest in Niskayuna because of what was happening here and the disregard. We've had the state take over our traffic, and I do say that we do have a lot of traffic. It's hard to get out on Troy Road unless you go to where there's a traffic light. That's a problem. There's lots of problems. We've got round to it. And every time somebody does one little thing, there's 14 letters complimenting either Denise, and by the way, I know where she is tonight. Maybe she'll show up later. But the fact remains that her responsibility is to be here. She was elected to be here. She wasn't elected to be someplace else. But I do want to thank you. I will continue as long as I have a breath to come to these meetings and hope that our young board will start to grow up a little bit. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Supervisor.
Thank you, Lorraine.
All right, good evening. I'm Dennis Brennan, 854 Barton Place in Niskayuna, of course. And I'll begin by saying I hope that Lorraine has a lot of breath left in her and will keep coming back and talking to you a lot in the future. I'm coming here to talk about a resolution that appears on the agenda for today. It was resolution 2019-90. Now it's 2019-89, a resolution to further define the duties of the town historian and authorize the creation of a town historical committee. As you know, of course, I am the town historian. I was appointed town historian last year. Now, in truth, there are two elements to this, fundamental elements to this resolution, neither of which do I find objectionable, really. The first is a request that the town historian submit 2 reports annually instead of 1. That's not a big deal as far as I'm concerned. The second is about the creation of a committee for a historical committee for the town. That too, I applaud. I think that's a great idea. I have no problem with the notion of having a committee. Now, to start with the notion of an extra report to the town board, I am required by state law to submit an annual report to the appointing authority, which is Supervisor Syed. I did so in January, as I think you're all aware, and I told her at the time that if she wanted to share it with anybody, it was fine with me. I wasn't going to take that on myself to do it. I figured since I was reporting to her, she should be the one to make that decision. But unless Supervisor Syed thinks this is some sort of a secret document that can't be shared with anybody but the two of us and the state historian, I don't care. They share it with everybody on the town board. They share it with everybody in the town, whether they publish it in the Gazette. It's not a secret document. And so the idea of issuing that once a year, or for that matter, issuing it twice a year, is not much of an issue as far as I'm concerned. I would have preferred, actually, before I go on to the next story, I would have preferred actually that somebody from the town board came to talk to me about this resolution. Seems to me that would have been the proper thing to do. I mean, I've been an employee, well, I've been a manager in business, and if I had a problem with an employee, I asked them to come and see me, and we talked about it. I teach now at Union College. The student isn't doing what they're told or doing what I expect them. We come, we talk about it, we work out some sort of a solution. In any case, it would have been nice if some of the town board or whoever wrote this, I know Councilman Delarada is offering it, but whoever organized the petition, the resolution would have come and talked to me about it. I'd be happy to work out some reasonable solution or some reasonable accommodation. Now, the second part of this resolution is the creation of a committee, a historical committee. Again, I am an academic historian. I've told people this many, many times. I'm an academic historian. That's my training. Being the town historian is the job of a public historian. And there's a fundamental difference. Academic historians tend to work by themselves. They have their own research that they're doing, whether they're trying to publish something, whether they're going to a conference, tend to work by themselves. They tend to work with other academics. They work with students. And so it's sort of an individualized approach to the study of history. Public historian, on the other hand, reaches out to the public in two different ways. First of all, they reach to the public to try to to bring them into the process, to find out what information they may have, what records they may have, what stories they may have to tell. And then the town historian should reach out to the broader public with this information. So there's a fundamentally different work process involved, and I'm in the midst of a learning curve to make that transition from an academic historian to a public historian. But in that respect, what the public historian needs is a committee. We need people. I need people to work with me. And we started that process, or I started that process. I met with a group of people in February. We met again in March, just a week ago, to talk about town history, to begin the process of relitigating, reviving town history and bring it to the public. And one of the most important things that came out of our meeting last week was the notion that we have to engage the public more. We have to reach out to the public of Niskayuna and let them know that we're there. Let them know that we're interested. Let them know what we want to find out, what information you may have about your family, about your house, about the street you live on, about the community you're involved with. And then we want to be able to take that information, if people are willing to give it to us, to publicize, and provide it to the rest of the town so we can begin to enlarge our understanding about the history of Niskayuna, which is more, I've been beginning to think lately, than just the history of the 6 great families that settled Niskayuna in 1809. It really is today about the families who settled Niskayuna in 1920 or 1930, when we experienced an enormous growth and change in the town. So the idea of having a committee is something I applaud. I think it's a great idea. On the other hand, and you probably knew there would be another hand, right? On the other hand, I do have some concerns about the way this resolution is worded. And I think it perhaps needs a little bit of rework. Maybe I would suggest it should be tabled for the time being. And perhaps I can sit down with the town board or members of the town board and work something out. But the next to last paragraph says, further resolved that this town board shall hereby authorize the creation of a historical committee to ensure that the town's historical significance is maintained for preservation of architectural, historic, and cultural artifacts and structures. Great. Unfortunately, that is essentially the duties of the town historian as defined by state law. To create a committee that by definition of the town resolution is to do the same thing as the town historian is already defined to do based on state law, seems like we're creating an extra committee, creating extra work, are two pieces of the town organization that this resolution doesn't indicate how they work together. So somehow or other, those two pieces have to be brought together, and we have to understand how this committee is going to be formed and who this committee is going to work under the authority of. No problem with answering to the town board or the town supervisor. That is fine as far as I'm concerned. One last concern I have, and I will preface this by saying I'm not an attorney. I know there's a number of attorneys on the town board, and we have, of course, the town attorney here. I do wonder whether the town has the authority to do this, simply because the town historian is a position created by the state. The duties of the town historian are defined by the state. Does the town have the authority to alter those duties? Like I said, that's not a question I know the answer to. Perhaps the town historian can help us with that. Perhaps somebody else in the town board would be able to explain to me why the town has the authority to, as it says, further define the duties of the town historian. So at this point, I think I've said enough. What I would suggest is that perhaps this would be a good day to table this resolution and work on refining it, and bringing it back at another time in a more appropriate and more workable form. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
Yes, Bill Popino, 1027 Hickory Road. I noticed that Supervisor Syed said that the OD Hick is priority one, according to this newspaper. And so I have read what is in here, and I apologize. I have not been to the planning board meeting, so I know nothing about what's been going on, but I hope that maybe John Delarada will give us a little rundown on it. That'd be helpful. Couple things come to mind. I know that our sewage draining system is reaching the full point, and I don't know whether the drainage from OD Hick goes into that system. I'd like to find that out. I want to find out if traffic on Balltown Road would increase or decrease depending on what is being done on that. And then Nick Chiesa, Chiesa, and his wife Lisa said they'd propose some restrictions on any modification that would be made to go to light industrial or whatever change you want to impose. And I'd like to find out if those or some of those restrictions would go into play. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
All right, Joseph Harrer, 2053 Lexington Parkway. All right, I'm going to talk about your proposal to transport waste material from Pepsi to the District 6 sewer system. All right, the proposal is to transport 5,000 gallons of this stuff. And if you do the math, it comes out to the weight of that 5,000 gallons comes out to about 42,000 pounds or 21 tons. So, so you're going to transport, this is a lot of weight. So, but people do it, and the Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration has figured it all out. And they weigh, what they do is they figure out the gross vehicle weight rating, which is the weight of the vehicle, the weight of the load on the vehicle, the weight of the driver, driver's dog, etc. Everything gets weighed. And there are a number of classes of trucks, from light trucks to medium-sized trucks to very heavy trucks. And it just so happens that the smallest truck you can use to transport this kind of weight, the 42,000 pounds, is a Class 8 truck. And it would be a tanker truck, it'd be a semi. It weighs, without any load, it weighs about 34,000 pounds. With the load, 42,000 pounds. It'll come out to about 76,000 pounds coming down the road, Walltown Road. And that's about 4,000 pounds than the 80,000 pounds that is the maximum that you can transport without a special permit, a lot of paperwork, etc. Okay, so now there's a lot of weight. And they've also figured out how to disperse this weight on the road. Because if the pressure is pounds per square inch, right? The weight over the area. So if the area is very small, then the truck will just go right through the road. So they spread out, and they came up with a formula. And it turned out that you're looking at a 18-wheel truck, 55 feet to 65 feet long. All right. Now, on Whitmire Drive, you have a 90-degree turn, and the road is 21 feet at that point. Now, they've also figured out how to turn the thing, and they figured you need 28 feet of roadway. You need a 28 foot wide road to make the turn. That's just going one way. Then you have the other way. But I just figured it out going one way. So I think the last time you had a meeting here about it, we were told that you're going to have one truck. It's going to be a light truck. It's going to be a vac truck. This 42,000 pounds on a vac truck would crush the vac truck. You're not going to have a vac truck. A vac truck is a Class 7 truck. The truck that you're going to use is something like this. If I can find it. There we go. There it is. That's a Class 8 truck. It's a Pepsi truck, too. It's a Class 8. And here's what it looks like. Here's what a tanker truck looks like. 18 wheels on it. So you need 18 wheels to spread out the area upon which all this weight will rest. Otherwise, you start crushing things. So I think this vehicle will be noticed. I think that people will be upset seeing these trucks going up and down the road. You haven't said so far. You're kind of close to the vest on this, but you haven't said so. But we figured out, some people have figured out, based on your budget and what you have budgeted, you're going to need maybe 10 trucks a day at the numbers that you're looking at. In fact, if you charge 8 cents a gallon and you bring in 10 trucks a day, you can, for 50 weeks, 5 days a week, 50 weeks, you can bring in $1 million. And now, since you have a $48 million debt and a $3.7 million debt service charge, which is about 25% of your budget. So for every dollar you bring in, you're spending 24, 25 cents on really nothing. It doesn't improve parks, it doesn't pay salaries, it pays the debt. You had the party, you got the money, you had the party, now you have the hangover, you got to pay it off. So this, so if you can generate a lot of money with this aerobic digester that you have over there, bringing in this soda water, if you can generate a lot of money, that would help out with the debt payment. And I think that's what the board is leaning towards. You're not saying it, but this is what we have figured out based on your budget. But anyway, these big trucks now, they will, well, the one from Pepsi will go up Route 7 to Union Street, then up Balltown Road, and then it'll turn around and come back down to Whitmire Drive and try to make that right-hand turn. It won't go down Rosendale because they have a sign there that says you can't go down there. I think it's a six-ton limit or 4-ton limit, something. Some of them go down there anyway. And the same thing is with Niskayuna Road and with Mohawk Road, I think it is. They all have signs, but they don't have signs up at, what is it, the Roman and Hickory or something like that. Yeah, Hickory Road off of Route 7. So I think with the navigation devices that they have on trucks now, I think maybe that truck might head into the residential neighborhoods there. Might go off Route 7, might go off Balltown Road, might head into that area. That's something you have to look into. I don't think those people would appreciate these large trucks going through their neighborhood every day for 4 hours, truck every 10 minutes. I don't think they would appreciate that. But anyway, well, we're moving along. You just have a pilot program going now, and we'll see how that works out. It'd be interesting to see what kind of a truck you're going to use. I think if you did the work that I did here 3 years ago, when this thing was on the drawing board, I think this whole project would have been shelved. I think somebody would have said, "Hey, come on, 18-wheelers running through Niskayuna during the day for 4 hours." I don't think people appreciate that. I think this thing would have been shelved right away. We would have never got to this point, but you didn't do your homework, so now here we are. And here we have a group of people on Whitmire Drive. They have properties. Now, how much is their property worth now with this thing hanging over their head? A person's property is worth what the future will bring. What is the future for them? Are you guys going to just ram this down their throats? How are you guys going to approach this? You have these people, they have an asset. It was worth something 2 years ago. Now, what is it worth? Nobody knows. You're going to run trucks down their road, their sleepy little country road with dead-end road, no through traffic. You got a state park across the road. Nobody's going to come in there and tear down all the trees, harvest the trees, and put up McMansions. That's forever wild. That road has a certain value because of the quietness. And what are you going to do with the quietness now with these trucks running down the road? They know what it's like. Because they've had the trucks going down the road with the renovations of the sewer system down there. So I think you cause these people a lot of heartache, a lot of anguish. I think you're impacting their bottom line, and I really don't think that 4 people in this town should have the power to do that to other people in this town. Now, we'll see. I think the people in this unit they have a choice. If this goes through, and this is going to be this is going to take years to get up to full operation. That's my thinking anyway. But if it goes through, these people will be, their world down there will be devastated. I mean, their property values will go way down. Just the ambiance of the place, the quietness, forget about it. It's out the window. But the people in Sewer District 6 will have lower sewer fees because you'll be getting money from this aerobic digester that will be generating electricity, and you'll be charging fees to get rid of this stuff. So the people in District 6 will, their rates will stay the same or go down maybe even. But people in Whitmire Drive, they'll be devastated. So it's a choice, a small if you stop this and don't do this, then there'll be a small increase in relatively small increase in the sewer rate. But at least the people on Whitmire Drive, at least they'll have peace and quiet again. At least the value of their property won't go down. So I think you got to think about this. You can't just look at the numbers on a ledger and, this side, that side. You have to look at the human part of it too. So I'll give you some of my stuff. You can look it over and we'll see what happens. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.
Leslie Gold, 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. Two things, I'm going to be as brief as I can. One is the resolution supporting the governor's executive budget prohibition of distribution of single-use plastic bags. I understand there's a little caveat within that, but I don't know the details. My understanding is the plastic bags that are used to wrap meat are excluded and they can continue to be used. I have one concern because even if they're wrapped in that, and sometimes even with paper on top, my experience has been they frequently leak. And aside from that, there's also various fresh produce that tends to be wet and can be a contaminant as well. So I would like to see those kinds of grocery items still be able to be placed into plastic bags from the store. I think department stores should get used to getting rid of them real fast. I know I've tried shopping with cloth bags in department stores, and they really have not been receptive to it. They would rather that they can see my articles in their plastic bags and whatnot, but it really is a terrible waste of plastic. So I'm generally supportive, but I do have a concern about the risk of contamination from meat, poultry, fish, and produce like lettuce and other things that grow in the dirt and tend not to be washed off sufficiently and have been the cause of various breakouts of illness. My other point was I've gotten very puzzled over the weekend because Friday there was an agenda. One item I thought was on it wouldn't be. Well, the agenda was updated on the website this morning, apparently twice within about a minute. And then it went off. The item I was looking for still has not been added. And there was a meeting regarding transfer station fees, including the price of the permit and the various fees for whatever is deposited there. And that's not on the agenda that I have in my hand. And the current permits expire on Sunday. So I presume some arrangement is being made so that we can purchase them in time for next week.
Correct. Yeah, they're being sold currently at the existing rate, so there's not going to be a rate change.
There isn't now, or there will be at the next meeting, because if there was an agreement that they would be going up, then
Right. We don't have an agreement as to an increase, so for now, it's tabled until further discussion.
Okay, that was not the impression of the article in the paper left me with.
Thanks, Leslie. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
Hi, Ben Spear, 1484 Dean Street. Two quick things I wanted to mention. The first was when I read the paper about the Historical Committee, I thought it was kind of a nice idea. As someone who grew up on Long Island and also has a background in history, I have a particular interest in early Dutch settlements and suburban development, and history of that. So it was good to see that Mr. Brennan was here to sort of share what he's been doing. So I, by chance, sat next to him, so I'm going to meet with him afterwards. But I do still think, regardless, that the concept behind the committee, at least in terms of having something to support the historian, potentially, or even maybe in the future being something that may be a breeding ground for future historians, might be something that will be beneficial with that. The second thing, which I'm sure you guys have heard enough about at the same time, it's something that came up when I was talking to some folks this weekend related to traffic. Obviously, there's Dean Street, which I actually am not here to talk about, even though I live on it, or some of the other streets like Rosendale and things like that. One person mentioned particularly the idea of having more crosswalks on Knott Street as you go away from the co-op. I know there's a lot of focus on the co-op area right now and that, but having a ways for people to cross between those neighborhoods, that seemed like something somewhat reasonable that I thought would be something. The other thing that then got me thinking as I was having that conversation with speeding generally, certainly it would depend on the neighborhood, but particularly on Knott Street, something I was thinking about. I don't know if you guys have looked at before. I know I've seen it in Europe. I think I saw it at the Route 85, one of the circles there in Slingerlands, the like reducing lines where it causes the person when they're driving, there's continuous lines and they come down to a point and it causes the person to mentally want to slow down. So maybe something coming into town from Schenectady and maybe coming out by Clifton Park Road to slow the traffic, at least on Knott and maybe in other areas where it's something like that. Just an idea I had. So thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak. And last opportunity. Okay.
Hello, my name is Tom Hodgkins. I live on Rosendale Road. I'd like to stand with my neighbor who spoke on Rosendale Road. I just happen to have this traffic study from 2015 in my folder here. And it's, some of the numbers are pretty interesting. They do a study based on speed and vehicle class, but there's only, going eastbound, there's only 12.3% of the people that actually obey the law and go under the speed limit, which is currently 35. And going westbound, there's only 11.6% that obey the law. There's, about 30, there's about a third, a little more than a third that go, 35 to 40 miles an hour. So that means that going east, 50% went over 40 miles per hour. And going west, 53.8 went over 40 miles an hour. And at Rosendale, you have two schools. My son walked to school on Rosendale the other day. You got a lot of vehicles. You have, I don't know, what is it? 17% are heavy trucks. And you have a lot of lawlessness. People aren't respecting the speed limit. And one of the problems is the speed limit is too high. Down in the other municipality, it's 30. Down by Lions Park, they reduce it to 30. That's a good idea. You have the authority, or maybe it's a county. But anyway, somebody has the authority to lower the speed limit. And I think maybe you could take the initiative first, lower the speed limit. And by the schools, lower it down to 25. So yeah, it's 15. I mean, you need to reduce speed limits. Reducing speed limits is effective. And you don't need state approval to lower it to 25. So on Dean Street, you can lower it to 25. Some of these sections, just lower the speed limits. Put in obstructions, put in illusions. You can do a lot of things, but lowering the speed limit is something that you have the authority to do. And I think that's to address some of this 50% going over 40 miles an hour, and it's registered 35, which is too high. I just want to stand with my neighbor, Mike, I believe, on Rosendale Road and their friends here. I have two other items. I have a little statement on the Oswald D. Heck campus in Niskayuna, and I did a little bit of research about some of the history of it. So it's a little informative, but also ties in some of the town's documents and the current kind of approach on it as well. So my perspective is that we need to freeze redevelopment on the ODH campus because there's too many unknowns exist to make an optimal decision about redevelopment. We cannot fulfill the town's goals if essential questions about the campus are outstanding. To protect the town's long-term interests, a deliberative community committee should be formed to evaluate all the opportunities before any redevelopment decisions are made. Empire State Development, Metroplex have toured and evaluated the campus in prior years. What are their written evaluations? What is the state's evaluation of the integrity of the physical structures? Is the bowling alley operational? The gymnasium, pool, auditorium, kitchens, living quarters. These are outstanding resources the town has right over there. And kind of well, let me read, it's probably better. The campus was designed by Warner, Burns, Tone, and Lindy, a New York City architectural firm that has completed projects all over the world. The papers of Charles H. Warner, all 16 linear feet of them, are preserved in Columbia University's Avery Library. Has the town reviewed his documents relating to the creation of the ODH campus? What were the guiding principles for campus design? How did design elements like the patios, open amphitheater, and fountain support his community vision? How did the community utilize the campus for enrichment and development in the past? How could community groups and new associations or businesses utilize unused structures on the campus? When the designs of the ODH campus were originally discussed, it was compared to the Habitat from Montreal's 1967 Expo. It's a very famous architectural structure of apartments. And it was built like this ODH campus. It was built by the federal government, and now they have turned it into cooperative housing. So my question is, how could the ODH campus evolve into cooperative ownership? Some type of ownership will bring the community together to maximize social capital and the capital of families themselves, rather than selling it off to a private developer. In 1974, the total cost of the campus construction was $28 million. Adjusting for inflation, today's value of the state's investment is $151.9 million. So why are discussions at the town's boards focused on transferring the people's land and their significant investment to a private developer with enough capital to demolish the campus and develop rental housing and another strip mall? In 2013, the Niskayuna Comprehensive Plan states, when referring to the ODH campus, that the town should promote its adaptive reuse, and that a study should be done with the possible adaptive uses and budgetary implications for modifying complex. So when and why were these thoughtful suggestions abandoned by the town board and its appointees? Today, approximately 10 acres of the campus is forested and left wild. Of that area, only 2.56 acres are listed on the National Wetlands Inventory as either a freshwater pond or a freshwater forested shrub wetland. So why don't we take the opportunity now to preserve that? Work with the state to create a new nature preserve, all of it. How would other open space proposals, how would they benefit the town? The comprehensive plan leads us to the answer when it notes the preservation of an existing open space and parkland should be viewed not only as desirable, but as an economic asset contributing to the town's overall fiscal health. The town continues, the town plan continues. The town should take advantage of open space opportunities as they arise, thereby enabling the town to realize long-term goals and objectives of open space recreational plan. So why aren't we fully embracing this opportunity right now? This is an opportunity to embrace open space and protect it. And we should be examining this, take a holistic approach on this. So given all these outstanding unknowns, why are we rushing to change the zoning code? Cui bono? Who benefits from this hasty decision? Not the community. Freeze all redevelopment and decisions about the ODH campus until a deliberative community-centered process is developed, engaged and concluded. Let the students and residents of the town investigate, brainstorm, set goals, and create an implementation plan. An optimal community redevelopment plan can flourish if we wish it. And I think we should. One more note of some news that I learned of recently about the transparency of any considerations. Town officials' meetings with state officials from Empire State Development as well as with Metrolux needs to be transparent. Instead of meeting in the Schaefer Room on April 8th at 11 a.m. to discuss the disposal of surplus property, the meeting should be held here. Meetings should be documented with the town's existing audio and video technology, and the meeting should be open to public. Have it here. Talk about it here. Brainstorm here in front of full view. Supervisor, this is an opportunity to demonstrate that your administration is determined to change the modus operandi of the state's failed economic development programs. Let in the sunlight. Let the community be engaged in evaluating the optimal redevelopment for the ODH campus. That's it. That's my prepared piece. Thank you. And I was trained as a historian, not a PhD. I'm not a doctor like Dr. Brennan back there, but I taught history for a while, and I was looking over this committee. I don't know. I have some wordings. I mean, I looked at this authorization, and I had a bunch of questions about the wording, and you're going to preserve the essential character and preserve the historical significance. I got questions about exactly how you're going to do that and what that means. I don't know what that means. And to ensure the historical significance is maintained, I don't know how you're going to do that and how a town, another board is going to, or committee is going to preserve the architectural and cultural artifacts and structures. So I found it ironic that, you want to create this historical committee that's going to preserve the architectural heritage and the structures, yet in the other committee, all you're talking about is raising the ODH campus. It was built by a world-renowned architect. It's just funny to me. I don't know. Then you have this, you're going to form a committee of 5 people, but then I was, looked at this very good report that Dr. Brennan put together, and he talks about the revival of the Historical Society. No, that's a good idea. Everybody can join. Everybody can participate. You don't need to, limit it, right? Create a historical, that sounds like a good idea. And he also says, we should expand and update resources available on the town's website. So let's support these. These are good ideas he has here. Stronger development of a database, reorganization of town's documents. So I think we should be thinking about trying to support some of these ideas that he laid forth in his report, instead of, and working with him to kind of get a better product. It seems like you're talking in 2 different directions. He's got a very thoughtful goals of collecting and protecting and communicate history. But then this kind of seems to go in the other direction. And it seems like, everybody needs to get together and kind of review what are the town's goals? What is the best way to proceed? How can we enhance understanding? How can we get more people involved? So I think, tabling is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
Kathy Lanchi, 2873 Whitmire Drive, Niskayuna. I just have one question for the board, since they've already approved their little plan with the trucks. You know all the specifications and how many tons and how big, 18 wheels. Just exactly how do you expect me to navigate down my street when one of these trucks is coming down the street? How am I supposed to go in the other direction? What do you want me to do? Fly over them? The road is not wide enough to accommodate 2-way traffic on that street if an 18-wheeler is coming down the street. So exactly how do you expect me to get down my street? I pay taxes just like all of you, just like everybody in this room. And I guess I'm a second-class citizen because the 6 or 8 or 12 people who live on this unit on Whitmire Drive don't really count. But we do count. I can't even, I work in Niskiuna. I live 5 minutes away. I used to go home for lunch. I won't go home for lunch anymore because I'm afraid I'm going to run into the truck traffic between 10 and 2. So I sit in the parking lot. It's already changed my lifestyle. But how can you possibly approve a project when the road isn't wide enough? What are you thinking? Do you care at all? Is this, everything is just about money and you're going to sacrifice a few people? Why don't you just buy up the street then and make it a one-way access road for your trucks? Because that's what, you don't care how we're going to get down the street. Am I supposed to back out onto River Road when I see one roaring down the street? You think that's safe? You think that's fair? I don't. And I don't think any one of you, if you lived on Whitmire Drive, would put up with that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Kathy. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak. And last call, privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak. Okay, seeing no one left who would like to speak, I'm going to close privilege of the floor. We're going to move on to committee reports. We're going to begin with Councilwoman Weber.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. We're moving into committee reports now. For those of you who don't know me, I chair the Community Programs Committee. Following my report, I am also going to be providing the Highway and Public Facilities Committee report and the Public Works Committee report for Councilwoman McGraw, who is not able to be here this evening. I'm going to try to keep my report brief because I do have the 3 reports to present this evening. So I'll start with community programs. Our summer program book, which everybody looks forward to, especially those with young children every year, will be out on or right before April 1st. That is a week from yesterday. That'll be filled with information about town camps, our playground camps, our sports camps, and information about our town pool and swim lessons. Our Spring Bunny Parade will be at Town Hall on Friday, April 19th from 10 to 11 a.m. Our spring recreational sports are also getting underway in April. Sign up for spring soccer on our website by March 31st. From our senior center, we had a very successful care fair on March 9th here at Town Hall, where residents got to find out more about options for seniors who need more help at home or need to look into alternative housing options. We are planning a 55-plus dance party at the Recreation Center on Friday, August 16th at 6:30 p.m., so save the date. That will feature a DJ and dancing and mocktails, and that will be open to the entire community and not just Niskiuna. As it has been reported in the newspaper, the town board and the supervisor are working with our town controller to develop a responsible fund balance policy. I am advocating that we earmark some capital reserve funds towards saving for a replacement for our aging community center. This is something that the master plan has called for several years ago, but we never actually started to earmark any savings for it. And I would really like to see some funds go towards saving towards this project. The next meeting for community programs will be Tuesday, April 2nd at 3 p.m. in the Schaefer Room. All are welcome. All of our committee meetings are open to the public. So I wanted to make a note of that as well. All our public meetings are open to the public. And when we schedule an extra meeting, we have to do it with a certain amount of days in advance so we can make that known to the public as well. Everything is open. From Highway and Public Facilities, we're working on quotes from stonemasons to begin the process of insurance reimbursement and then repairing the Avon Crest wall that was damaged in a recent car accident. I don't know if everybody has seen it. The pretty wall at the beginning of the Avon Crest development with the Lions was struck and hit by a vehicle as a result of a car accident, and everyone's been pretty anxious to get that repaired. Highway crews are out trimming trees and doing catch basin washout repairs. The yard waste pickup begins in mid-April, weather permitting. We've posted on the town website and in the Gazette the schedule. The highway crews are also out doing pothole repairs. If you have seen a pothole and are concerned about a pothole when you're out driving around, please report it to the highway department and we'll try to get at it as soon as possible. Any damage from plows will begin to be repaired in the next few weeks, also weather permitting. From Public Works, we just had a terrific recommendation from a resident regarding promoting the transfer station. It's actually a pretty good deal when you consider the cost of getting a permit to our transfer station against the cost of paying for a private monthly pickup of your trash and recycling. So we'll be building off the efforts of our transfer station advisory committee of a few years ago and working to better promote this town facility. One of the things that did come out of our meeting last week was that we'd like to start taking credit card payments on site at the transfer facility. And we think that that'll make it a lot easier for residents to come and get a permit and pay for their trash to be taken. And we'd like to promote usage of that. The Water and Sewer Department has been working on seasonal maintenance for our equipment in preparation for improving weather. Hydrant flushing will begin on April 1st. We're mindful of upcoming holidays and we will work around the holidays to avoid any water issues on holiday days. Splash pad equipment was delivered earlier this month and the plans are in the works to get started on putting together and installing our splash pad also as weather permits. Electrical materials have been purchased for new electrical service to the transfer station, and installation work on that is expected to begin next week. The new water main between Mohawk Road and Winnie Road was installed last week. The portion of the project along Route 7 will begin on or about April 1st. We're also currently looking to hire up to 3 water and sewer maintenance workers to replace employees that have recently taken work elsewhere. We're also looking to hire a wastewater operator to fill a vacancy created by the retirement of our chief plant operator. An additional item is the current franchise agreement with Spectrum for residential cable and internet is expiring. The Public Works Committee will begin exploring more beneficial options for our residents in April. So those were 3 committees. And thank you, Madam Supervisor.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Weber. We're now going to move on to Councilman Delarada.
Thank you, Supervisor. There was a lot discussed today at the privilege of the floor, and fortunately I can address many of those things because there's some resolutions that address them. Firstly, regarding the historical resolution that's on the table, there is no problem with the current historian that we have. We all think he's doing a very good job. Unfortunately, we did not see his report until we proposed this resolution. The only reason why we proposed this resolution because there are a lot of residents in the town that are very interested in the history of Niskayuna. This was brought out with the application process for the town historian. There was several people, at least 5, if not 8, that applied, and 4 or 5 want to continue to be involved, and hopefully they will be one of the 5, 6, or 7 people on this committee that can all join Dr. Brennan and combine thoughts and hopefully write some history. So that is where we are at with the historical resolution. I don't see any purpose in tabling it, but if one of my members has a desire to table it, I certainly wouldn't oppose it. I do appreciate our historians' support of both the biannual reports as well as the committee. So that brings me to the paper bag resolution. I know that was brought up by one of our constituents. All of this resolution does is support a statewide resolution. We don't want to break this down into towns against cities and towns against towns, where some towns have a paper bag restriction and some a plastic bag restriction and some don't, because it's going to create competition that's just not necessary. So our resolution is supporting a statewide solution. I believe right now there is going to be a statewide solution for a plastic bag ban, but they're hemming and hawing on whether or not there's going to be a fee for paper bags. And they're trying to make a determination as if a fee for paper bags will serve some environmental purpose, and if it's worth it, what that fee would be. So that's what this resolution does, is just support a statewide resolution. Regarding ODHEC, just very briefly, a resident here said that we really should have open meetings and plan ODHEC, and I must say that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to get out in front of something that the state notified us that might be going on. So instead of having a last-minute fire drill, so to speak, and trying to get the community together when the state decides to get rid of this parcel and have developers fighting over it and the like, we try to do this in advance and create the type of atmosphere where we have plenty of forums like the planning board and their meetings, and the residents can come to those meetings and speak their thoughts. They certainly can contact any of the committee members of those boards, as well as the town board members, and we do want that input. And that's why this is just a planning exercise, so to speak. It's really not as big of a deal as everybody think it is, because the land that is involved is it's not the whole swath of land that's adjacent to Mohawk Commons. It's only a very small portion of that swath of land, several acres that now accompany a bunch of cement buildings, one of which is the Poosh Corner Daycare, which my daughter went to probably 18 years ago now. They're still there. Most of that parcel of land is either wetlands, there's roads going through it, or there are state buildings on it that have a lot of state employees on it. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. So we just want to make sure that if something comes about, we are able to take into consideration all of the views of the surrounding neighborhood. And that's why we're doing this now instead of waiting till the last minute when this land becomes available, if in fact it ever does become. Regarding the wastewater treatment plant, one resident did say that this is all about debt service and money. That is a big part of it. That's at least 1/3 of it. And I do remind everybody that on January 1st, or the first meeting in January, we were presented with a budget by our supervisor that did include approximately $300,000 in revenue generated by this wastewater treatment plant. Now, that's a good chunk of revenue, and if that revenue is not in that budget, we've got to come up with it somewhere, or we've got to raise taxes, or we've got to cut services. All that being said, we welcomed the supervisor's dollar amount in the budget, because we feel that this wastewater treatment plant is not only going to generate revenue and help out with debt service, but it is going to take care of an environmental problem, to discharge this soda water in an environmentally friendly manner that's not going to destroy the infrastructure by rotting it out because of its high sugar content. But most importantly, this treatment plant is going to end up to be a net zero plant. The discharge, or the organic waste that we're running through there, is going to generate enough electricity to power that entire plant. As many of you know, that is the plant's highest expense, is the power that it takes to generate and run all of the pumps to run that wastewater treatment plant. So it's at least money, it's at least environment, and it is at least making a net zero plant. So we have cleaner and more efficient workings. Regarding speeding, one of our residents was very concerned about speeding, and he had a very good idea, and that was on the county roads to try to get the sheriffs involved. I am going to speak with Legislator Fluman. He chairs the Intergovernmental Relations Board, and certainly it may be possible to have the sheriffs assist in supervising or having traffic detail on some of these county roads to help out the town policemen. So we'll have to see what their response is to that. The state troopers is a little bit different. That's a much harder get. But certainly we can start on the county level and see if we can get some sheriff patrols there. All that being said, all are welcome to my committee meeting. They are the first Friday of every month. The next meeting will be April 5th, and those are held in the Schaefer Room at 8 o'clock in the morning. All are welcomed and encouraged. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Delarada. Councilman McPartlin.
Thank you, Supervisor Syed. As you know, I chair the Police and Public Safety Committee. Our meeting was March 5th, and operationally at this meeting, traffic studies. So when we have residents that either speak here at the board meetings or send us emails about speed complaints, we take them very seriously. So last month, Knott Street and Balltown Road, where we do traffic studies on those roads. So I'll report to you that Knott Street and Clifton Park, in that particular area, average speed 23, 31 percentile is about 31 miles an hour is the 85th percentile. And then you've got about 532 cars that we measured. That's in a 24-hour period there. Balltown Road near CVS, average speed 35 miles an hour. That's 1,700 cars. And that was over the weekend. That was a Sunday into a Monday. 2,084 cars. That's Friday into Saturday. Average speed 34 miles an hour. So you can see there is quite a bit of traffic. Everybody knows that on Balltown Road. So we do studies. The gentleman that came up and spoke about Knott Street, again, that road, as you know, is scheduled for some redevelopment by the co-op and Balltown Road. And that is a county job. They're looking for input. They got a grant for that. They've been having meetings, open meetings for getting public input. So if you're interested in that, please watch our website, go to those meetings. All input is greatly appreciated. So at our next meeting, we'll be discussing other traffic areas that were brought up this evening and do speed studies. We have limited officers in our town. We can't be on every single street and patrol everywhere. I know the chief himself and the deputy chief go out and give citations. And interestingly enough, some of those, well, I say some, probably most of them are actually town residents. So those are our neighbors that are speeding through our streets, not people going through our town. Those are people that live in our town. Also at our meeting, training's a big thing for our officers here in the town. Patrolman Henry and Munger are attending an instructor development course down at the Zone 5 Academy. As I said earlier, citizen issues. We discussed the Dean Street meeting that we had in conjunction with Public Works, and county legislators were here to talk about Dean Street, possible redevelopment of Dean Street to alleviate some of the concerns there about speed and traffic on Dean Street. Community events, our drug take back day this spring is going to be April 27th, 10 to 2 here at Town Hall. That's open to all town residents. They come up. We have officers here and volunteers from NCAP and students, and we get all medications that people want to drop off, take them here, and then all that is incinerated. Once again, we have a drop box here at the town hall that's open during town hall business hours that you can take any kind of medications that aren't being used anymore and you want to dispose of, drop them right here in our box and we will dispose of them properly. Winter parking rules still in effect for a little bit longer. Spring's almost here. Fire department, no real issues to report from the fire department other than the water main break we had on the Balltown Road. Personnel, Officer Walter progressing well in her FTO training and should be full-time with us very shortly. Our next meeting is April 2nd here at Town Hall in the Schaefer Room at 8 a.m.
Okay, thank you, Councilman McPartlin. I'm going to move on to the supervisor's report. I'm going to keep it brief because we have a lot of business to get to, but thank you all for your patience. Someone did mention that some of the numbering has changed between the agenda that was released on Friday and the agenda that was released again this morning. There was a resolution 2019-85 to set the salary for a confidential secretary that was pulled. The reason that that was pulled was the candidate actually withdrew themselves from consideration due to the prolonged delay in setting her salary. She didn't have any confidence that it would be set tonight, quite frankly, and so she took herself out of the running. It's unfortunate. She was a great candidate. Niskayuna mom, wonderful lady. So we'll be reposting the position. Hopefully there'll be some new faces that we might have missed the last time, but fingers crossed that I will find someone soon. The town of Niskayuna has also recently been redesignated as a tree city, and this is for 2018. So this is a designation that we like to keep up every year. We've been doing this for 15 years running now. I attended a recognition conference ceremony last week with our town planner, Laura Robertson. Thank you for coming with me. It was great to see so many of the presentations by the Arbor Day Foundation, all the great work that they're doing to plant trees in our state and in the nation. So we were able to take home with us a bronze plaque, so that will be on display. And then we also have our Arbor Day scheduled for April 27th, which I think is the same day as the Drug Take Back Day, I believe, but they'll be in separate locations. Drug Take Back Day will be here at Town Hall. Arbor Day will be at River Road Park and Blatnick. Oh, it's at Blatnick this year. Okay, last year was at River Road Park. So, okay, change of scenery. Well, that will be fun.
What time is that, the Arbor Day?
1 to 3.
1 to 3. All right. So we'll be all right with drug.
Yeah, we should be okay. We'll be far enough apart. Next Wednesday on April 3rd, I will be a panelist at the Tri-State Community Energy Summit in New York City. I'm going to be talking about our local energy priorities. I'll be joined by the mayor of White Plains and also by the sustainability administrator for the city of Saratoga Springs. Among other topics, I will be talking about our participation in the countywide solar energy consortium. And I will also be discussing our foray into community choice aggregation and some of the challenges and opportunities that all of these different initiatives have presented. So hopefully it will be worthwhile for all of the participants, the people who are listening. I hope that I can provide a lot of good information for them to also implement in their own towns. And lastly, 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of attending a state economic development update at SUNY Schenectady. The guest speaker was Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul. Afterwards, I was able to speak with her about shared services funding for local municipalities. She gave me some great information on how to go about getting that funding. So I will be spearheading a strategic plan on some shared services initiatives that we can implement here in the town. And luckily for us, we will be appointing a grants administrator who's here with us tonight. Thank you for coming. So I look forward to working with him on ascertaining some of these grant funding opportunities for our town so that we can do, that we can save taxpayers' dollars and do a lot of good things. So that concludes my supervisor's report. We are going to head right into our resolutions. We're going to begin with Resolution 2019-62. Sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution adopting ADA transition plan.
Thank you. I will second. Is there any discussion?
Just briefly, Supervisor, I am very proud to be part of the committee that brought this resolution. It is going to help a great deal of people get around the town a lot better, and it's something that really need to be done. The gentleman that we will have do it is going to survey and take note of what we have right now that's not in compliance and what we need to do to get in compliance with that Disability Act. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I want to say this is very important. I'm glad to see this resolution is here. Remember, my family became disabled in a wheelchair, and you don't realize how the accessibility matters and changes until you actually have someone that is in that state. And you just don't realize how many places are not accessible. So doing this is going to really help us in the town here see where we need to make improvements for people with disabilities. So very happy to see this.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I'd like to second what Councilman McPartlin said. Exactly. And until you have somebody that you're caring for that's in that situation, you really don't realize how many places are inaccessible. And I'm so glad that the town is really taking a look at making sure that our community is accessible as possible.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I will add that I would like to thank the many interns who worked on this over summers and in the fall and spring semesters. This is a real collaborative effort between multiple departments, Water and Sewer Department, Planning Department, Legal Department. Rob Hess had a big part to play in tying up a lot of the loose ends. He found us a great intern right at the end to just put all this together. So it was a real feat, and thank you to everybody who worked on this. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-63, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution in support of State Assembly Bill A4403 McDonald to shorten foreclosure times for zombie houses.
Thank you. I will second. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call?
I would like
Oops.
to mention
Sure.
something about this. In my particular job position, I run into a lot of properties where I have to do inspections on these particular properties because what happens is people leave, power gets turned off, and then the properties deteriorate very, very rapidly. So this is very interesting to me, and glad that we are able to work, hopefully get the state to pass this, because the banks, they don't care, okay? And we need to get these properties occupied and get the power back on so that it doesn't become a blight in anyone's neighborhood. And it's so difficult if you live next to a property like this, that there's very little that you can do, and municipalities have a hard time doing anything. So if we can get these properties turned around, the sooner the better.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Yeah, aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-64, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution in support of provisions in the Governor's NYFY 2020 executive budget prohibiting distribution of single-use plastic bags.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
I'd actually like to make some comments on this.
Sure.
I'm supportive of ending the reliance on plastic bags, and as Councilman Delarada said in his committee report, it's best that something like this be done on a statewide level so that the playing field is even amongst all of the businesses in all of the counties. Any piece of legislation is only as good as its implementation, and I hope when they're implementing this that they make some considerations for the elderly and people who are disabled, because sometimes a paper bag without a handle is not easy for somebody to navigate if they've got crutches or a cane or some other kind of assisted device. So I'm hoping that we can reduce our impact on the landfill and on plastic bags, floating out to sea, and still be able to assist people with what they need at the store.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-65, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving 2018 second half residential commercial utility billing warrant.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-66, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution in the matter of the joint increase in improvements of facilities of Sewer District Number 1 and Sewer District Number 6.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I would just like to point out, it looks like these are all duplicates. They're not. The first ones in each series are the public interest order, so that's what we're voting on first. And then the next one in the series is the actual bonding resolution. So I just want to make that distinction. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-67, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the issuance of bonds relating to joint increase and improvements of the facilities of Sewer District Number 1 and Sewer District Number 6.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-68, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution in the matter of the increase and improvements of facilities of Sewer District Number 6.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-69, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the issuance of bond related to increase and improvements of facilities of Sewer District Number 6.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-70, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution in the matter of the issuance of bonds relating to the increase and improvements of the facilities of Consolidated Water District Number 1.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-71, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the issuance of bonds relating to the increase and improvements of the facilities of Consolidated Water District Number 1.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-72, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution in the matter of the issuance of bonds relating to the increase and improvements of the facilities of Sewer District Number 1.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-73, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the issuance of bonds relating to the increase and improvements of the facilities of Sewer District Number 1.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-74, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution in the matter of the issuance of bonds relating to increase and improvements of the facilities of Consolidated Water District Number 1.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-75, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the issuance of bonds relating to increase and improvements of facilities of Consolidated Water District Number 1.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-76, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to accept temporary labor rates for 2019.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-77, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to purchase various items off of the 2019 Schenectady County bids.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-78, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to accept the bids for mowing services for Dean Street and Baker Avenue parks.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
Is that McPartlin or Weber?
Weber.
Okay.
I did-
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-79, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize the removal of items from the fixed asset inventory.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-80, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to accept quotes for seed and fertilizer for 2019 public works use.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-81, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to accept quotes for fertilizers purchase and spreading services for the town's facility for 2019.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-82, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to approve a licensing agreement with the graduate student conducting a Fisher study.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have not run into a Fisher here in my time in Niskayuna, but apparently many of our residents have, and it'll be interesting to see what the population is.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-83, sponsored by Councilwoman Weber. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to appoint spring soccer referees and driving range staff.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-84, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to make certain budgetary modifications.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-85, sponsored by Supervisor Syed and Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to contract with a grant writer.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Go with
Lisa.
Weber.
Weber. Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the
I'm
clerk please?
glad
Oh,
that we've gotten this finally. We toyed around with this idea about whether we were going to hire this work out to BOCES or if we were going to try to find our own. And now it looks like we've got our own grant writer that's going to be working for us. He's here in our audience this evening. Thank you for coming. And I'm sure Laura is going to be happy about this. She was doing quite a bit of this work. So it's really good that we've got this proposal, this resolution in front of us this evening.
thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes, there are a lot of great opportunities that grants bring to our town, and I'm very excited that we found a grant writer, and welcome.
Any further discussion?
I do want to thank Ms. Robertson for her work in writing the grants the past couple of years. We get hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in grants that do a wonderful job in taking money off of our budget and being able to provide the services that we need to. So thank you to Ms. Robertson, and I know this is going to be a great help to her in time to come.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-86, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize the sale of certain town-owned items, computers.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-87, sponsored by Councilwoman Weber. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to enter into an agreement with Mohawk Hudson River Marathon.
Thank you. I will second. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-88, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution allowing the supervisor to enter into a renewal agreement with a CSCA Employees Benefit Fund for visual coverage.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-89, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to further define the duties of the town historian and to authorize a creation of a town historical committee.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Since there's been a motion and a second, at this time, I would like to make a motion to table because we do have some existing questions as to how the committee is going to work together with the historian. Is one going to be over the other? Are they going to be separate together? You know, what, I think we need to further define the roles. But we all agree, and I agree as well, I think there's a real benefit to having a committee. I think the more people involved in wanting to learn about and foster the history of this town, the better. So I even think that we might not want to limit it to just 5 people. I think that there are probably many more people who would want to become involved in as well. So with that motion, can I get a second on that?
Second.
Thank you.
I want to thank Mr. Brennan for coming out this evening and giving us a little brief overview on your report and sort of weighing in on this resolution. And I understand you don't have a problem with it, but there might be some trouble with the language and the number of people and all that. So I'm fine with tabling it. Hopefully we can just get it on for next month so that we can get this committee together. You've already been doing some work and maybe we can just sort of make it a little more official, if you will.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
I'd also like to thank Dr. Brennan. It's been a pleasure getting to know you in the past year. I hadn't known you before, and I have some ideas on various projects. And thank you for coming out tonight. I really found your report very informative. We didn't get it until a few days ago. So we weren't aware of the depth of the work that you've done over the past year, and it's very impressive. And I think that we can come up with something within the next month or so that that we can all be very happy with.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, on the motion to table, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes to table.
Okay, and that motion is tabled. Next resolution, 2019-90, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to grant an easement to National Grid.
Thank you. Can I get a second? I will second. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-91, sponsored by Councilwoman Weber. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize the submittal of grant applications.
Thank you. I will second. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2019-92, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize professional services for design at Aqueduct Park.
Thank you. I will second. Any discussion?
Yes, this is just to go along with the improvements that the town has made in conjunction with the roundabout that is now going over the Rexford Bridge, and then into the Aqueduct Park is right next to that. There's going to be improvements with grant monies that we've got for both these bulkheads to get access to the docks for the rowers, as well as new bathrooms that we're putting in, and trails that are eventually going to extend over to the River's Ledge, the new development that really is groundbreaking because it's going to transform a junkyard into a very usable and habitable residential area with parkland and the like. So that is the idea behind the professional services for that design at Aqueduct Park.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. And last but not least, we have our ceremonial resolution, 2019-93, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution recognizing Arbor Day.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
We hope that we have a good turnout for Arbor Day. It is going to be at Blatnick Park on April 27th, as the supervisor mentioned in her report. And we will have plantings to give out and plantings of trees there. So all are welcome and encouraged. We hope to have a very good day there.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weber.
Yes.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And that resolution passes. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your week.